Okay, so there's a lot of talk about positive thinking and manifesting and building the life that you truly think you deserve or that you want. But there's something that is actually working behind the scenes a little bit more than just positive thinking. And I am one that used to preach that. I used to think you had to be high vibe and raise your vibration to attract those things, to be successful and to be in a healthy relationship or have the abundance and prosperity that you want in your life. And in my 57 plus years, I have built a successful hair business. I've been doing hair for 37 plus years, and I've had a lot of chances to speak to people. And I've learned about law of attraction back in the 90s with Bob Proctor and Napoleon Hill and many other gurus, if you will, when it comes to that. But there's one thing that has been made very clear to me recently, and it's something that's actually blocking what you want to get in life. And so this is kind of a little secret that I kind of stumbled upon, and maybe you all have too, but this is what this video is going to be about. What is actually more important than just positive thinking? Positive thinking helps, don't get me wrong. Law of attraction is actually real. But what has the most power are your beliefs. Beliefs matter more than anything. You don't even have to be a good person. We're seeing this with a lot of successful people that have been generating billions and billions of dollars, and they might not be maybe the nicest people. Maybe they've done it a little on the shady way, but regardless, their belief is that they can do it. And guess what? They did. So do you have to be so positive? Do you have to be this great person? No, not when it comes to success. But I will say, for relationships, for those that you want to attract, that you might want to put your vibration on a higher level. In my experience over decades of being in business, I started out, let me just give you a little bit of my backstory. I started out doing hair when I was 19 years old. And at 20 years old, I had been kind of a wild child. A lot of hairdressers in the 80s were wild. We partied a lot. And I found myself in a precarious situation. And I was going to be a mother at 20 years old as I found myself pregnant. And everyone told me I was going to ruin my life. That was their issue, not mine. I had been pretty responsible to begin with. I had bought a horse when I was 14 years old. I've been working since I've been 14 years old. So I was pretty resourceful when it comes to taking care of business. So I really wasn't worried about ruining my life. Did I think it was going to be easy? No. Had I done a lot of babysitting and been around a lot of children and things like that? Absolutely. That was through my neighborhood and the church I went to. So I really wasn't worried about being a mom. I knew I could handle it. And at that time, the person that I was seeing, who I was involved with, we weren't really in a committed relationship. And so I really was making a decision thinking that I was going to do this by myself. Little did I know I was really going to do it by myself. But that's okay. It worked out in the long run. But the thing was, everybody had said I was going to ruin my life, but I did not have that belief that that was going to be the case. I knew I would find a way. I just knew there was always a way. I'm very much a solution seeker, that there has to be a solution for every problem. We just haven't got to that solution. And so my strongest belief was it'll be okay. And sure enough, it was. But again, I didn't know that I was actually manifesting or using my beliefs as the tool to get me where I needed to be. I had always been into energy work. I got into that with, prayer. I knew the power of prayer. I had gone to this apostolic Pentecostal church that had taught me about prayer and how it works and things like that. And I had believed it to be true, right? Ask and you shall receive, according to what the Bible says. And there is actually some truth to that. Now, I am not a religious person. It's okay if you are, because again, your beliefs matter. And what are your beliefs telling you? The problem with the church that I was going to, is that the belief was we all came into this world. The Bible tells us that we are all imperfection and we're trying to, win and earn God's love and help and trust. And otherwise you'll be punished if you do all the wrong things. So it was really interesting at the time, because when I was really knee deep in this church, I felt very protected. I prayed for to get better on my math tests. I'm dyslexic, so sometimes I struggled with doing the timed tests and stuff like that. And I wanted to be a winner. I was super competitive. I also was in track, and I prayed that I would win my track meets. And guess what? I was undefeated for many track meets, and I never lost. I was deemed one of the fastest kids in Castro Valley, my town where I went to school. From Oakland, but went to school in Castro Valley. And then I even went to an examiner meet in San Francisco at the Cow Palace and raced with many of the Olympians that were in 1984. Unfortunately, I missed my race, so that wasn't my course of life. And again, I think everything does happen for a reason, because there are circumstances that come at you probably because of your beliefs. And I thought only special people got to the Olympics, and that was a little bit out of my league. At least that was my belief. And I did not go to the Olympics. So, needless to say, our beliefs mattered. So as I got older and I left the church, I wanted to, I left because I wanted to really get out with boys and party and do all the things that everybody was doing in the 80s and go dancing, and that was all forbidden stuff. And they told me that I would be punished by doing that, because I knew what God wanted, and now I'm doing all the things that are bad and all that. Usually that's called experimenting when you're a teenager. And of course, when you're way over here, that pendulum swings. So I went way far over here, and my belief really was internal, and I did believe that I would be punished for doing that. Hence, I overdosed on drugs. 6 weeks later, I was at a party and was sexually assaulted. And then a couple of years later, I ended up pregnant, and then everybody said I was going to ruin my life. And I thought, oh my God, I guess I really did mess up. But as I went on and, I quit drinking and doing all the party and stuff and became a mom, single mom, I started working at the salon where we did a lot of personal development. We bought the books of Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. We bought Bob Proctor's book, You're Born Rich. We did Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. And I started really getting into personal development because I found it so interesting, because I'm a pattern person and I have a really good memory. So I could see all the patterns and how this lined up to be true. And everything was about a vibration, because everything has energy at a subatomic particle level. So your thoughts do too. And so what you put into your thoughts, and in your brain, your thoughts, and you think thoughts over and over and over again, those become beliefs. Beliefs are not necessarily true. I just want you to know that. They're just something that you think over and over. And those beliefs are so ingrained in your brain that when your brain has that hardwired and you have synapses forming and pathways and all these kind of things, the reticular activation system is activated, and that's RAS. You'll hear that with Tony Robbins and things like that. The universe will give you what your brain deems most important, and your beliefs are what's most important. So we started doing all this personal development, and I was really getting into things. I was motivated to build my clientele, to build a home, because in my brain, my belief was you're not considered an adult until you buy your home. And I thought you were supposed to be an adult at least by 25. Now, mind you, I'm still a single mom, had my own business. I started renting a space doing hair at 22. And there were times I had to pay to go to work. But this belief that I knew it was possible, I knew I could at least get one person in my chair. we didn't have a lot of walk-ins, but we had people who did nails. I'm a good talker. I like people. I'm very interested in people. And so building those connections, people tend to like me. I'm personable. Maybe not everyone, but most people that I've encountered don't really have that bad of an experience. And so slowly but surely, I built up a full clientele. And I actually did buy a house, my condo, at 25 as a single mom during a recession. I started my business in a recession. I should add that too, because I started renting a space in 1991. And yes, there were some challenges along the way. It wasn't all just fluff. There's work I had to do too. I did do the meditating. I did write down my goals. I focused literally just on that. I started focusing on all the things that I wanted. And what was curious about that, it made me go back to thinking about when I wanted my horse. Because in these books I was reading, it was saying when you want something, you got to really focus on what it is you want, because the universe doesn't know whether you want it or don't want it. So your verbiage and your beliefs have to match the thing that you want. So when I was 14, well, actually I was 13, and I really wanted a horse so badly because I'd been around horses. We had a bunch of horses in the neighborhood. We would go horseback riding on the weekends all the time. And I took lessons. I did all that stuff since, I was like 6. And so, but I always wanted a horse, and I was like, oh, but I don't want a gelding. I don't want an Arab, and I don't want a sorrel color horse. I wanted other things, but those were the things I really focused on. Well, guess what? I got my horse, but it was a sorrel color horse. It was 3/4 Arab and a quarter, and it was a gelding. But it was the most amazing experience and taught me a whole lot. And that taught me about energy as well, because if I was in a frantic, anxious state, my horse responded and was not kind to ride. And when I was calm and felt very in control and looked ahead, boy, that was a different horse. So at the time, I didn't put those things into consideration. Sorry, my dog is going bananas. I'm sure somebody's walking by. And as I started learning about how energy works, I started putting those 2 and 2 together. And, I didn't have a very good pattern of picking people to date. And I tend to go out with the bad boys. And with that, I decided I needed to make some changes, because that really wasn't working out for me. And in the long run, I really wasn't raised that way, because my belief was, you do your partying when you're young, and then you grow up and you move on and you do adult things, and you adult and you kind of leave that behind. And so that kind of wasn't happening for me. And so I wrote down what it was that I wanted in a person, not what I didn't want, because when I wrote what I didn't want, that came up too. So, but it was just recently that I've really believed that there are solutions to every problem. And when you focus on a solution, you might not get it right away, but you get steps to try, and then it motivates you to do something new. And I've learned that actually by reading cards. Once I got into this energy, I learned that, I was introduced to tarot a long time ago because my mom was into it. And I didn't kind of do it because I was in that church. My parents weren't, but my mom was. And so, not into the church, but into tarot. So I started doing it, but I was a little afraid of it at first because I believed that it was negative, until I realized basically it just shows where your energy's at, where your blocks are, and what your current vibe is going on, and how you can either move forward to change it or not. And it was one thing that gave me hope when I had a family member who was scammed out of $10,000, and it totally was not fair. And I was obsessed with getting that money back, and using the tarot helped show me that there was going to be a solution. There would be a positive outcome, but not without some sheer willpower. We got that money back 5 months and 2 days, and it was not for not trying. It was a lot of pain. There was a lot of tears, a lot of frustration. But guess what? That money came back without going to court. And not only that, it came back more. Made $1,500 on it. I don't even know how that's possible. Everybody told me that was not going to be the case. You're never going to see that money again. Cut it as your loss. You did all the best you can. And, you know, you did what you possibly could. And I said, you know what? That's not good enough. That is not good enough. I'm getting that money back. I don't know how, but that has now led me into apparently my energy likes to attract these unusual problems. And I have found myself as a victim in a Ponzi scheme. Now, I don't know how, and it's still ongoing, and I have no idea how this is going to work out. But I've always felt that I would be okay and that things would work out in my favor in the long run. I don't know if that's true. We'll actually see. You can at least follow me and see in real time if this actually goes through or not. But it's just a feeling I've had, and I'm not giving up that hope because I've seen too much of what my beliefs have actually generated. And I'm here to share that with you. I'm going to start my Awakening Queen course. I'm going to have it up for the beta. I want to get some people who might be interested in this kind of thing and test it out for a little bit, and I'll have that coming soon. But comment that you're ready to comment beliefs. Let me know in the comments below if this is something you're interested in, because I can give you more examples of how this has worked out in my life. And I'm sure once you start looking at your life, you'll be able to see those patterns as well. And but that is why I do use cards. And let me just get a deck here. Sorry. I'm going to pull one card as we close out this video. And just to give you an idea how energy works, I'm using the Enchanted Map deck by 𝐂𝐎𝐓. She's one of my favorites. I love her oracle cards. I use oracle and tarot. But it just kind of gives you an idea of how energy works, because even though you might not be aware of your energy, it's real, whether you acknowledge it or not. So today, coming to life. This is in protection. It's what's called reverse. That's 29. I'm going to read it to you so you don't think I'm making this stuff up. And because it kind of is probably fitting. So we have this in reverse, and I don't have my glasses. All right, coming to life card is a gentle reminder to get out of your own way, to let go and let spirit lead. New life is unstable in the beginning and needs gentle care. Farmers don't go into their fields and pull up the shoots of plants to see how they're doing. They know that everything has its own cycle of growth. Let nature take its course. Find other things to focus on right now. Simplicity and small steps are the order of the day. When the time is right, you will see the miracle. Can't make this stuff up, right? And this is why beliefs matter. And that is at the subatomic level, the little tiny spots. We're going to start planting the seeds of the future that you want to see. And I can guarantee you it will happen. So, if you are ready to start a new path, grow a new garden, mind garden, and have a fruitful and bountiful harvest, then let me know in the comments. And I'll have you can sign up for my newsletter on my website, wellnessgardentoolshed.com, and let's get this party started.